In a small African village surrounded by green hills, life was simple and peaceful. The villagers lived by helping one another. They shared food, water, and laughter. But there was one person who was different, Adisa. She was known as the richest woman in the village. Her house was bigger, her clothes finer, and her attitude sharper. Adisa never liked to share. She believed that what she had was hers alone. When villagers came to her for help, she always found a reason to say no. "I worked hard for this," she would say, looking down on them. Some villagers whispered about her greed, but Adisa did not care. One hot day, Mama Nkechi, a kind but poor widow, came to Adisa. Her children were hungry, and her crops had failed. "Please, Adisa," she begged, "just a little grain to feed my children. I will repay you when the harvest comes." Adisa sneered. "If you cannot pay, do not ask," she said and slammed her door shut. Mama Nkechi left with tears in her eyes. The days grew harder for the village. A flood came and ruined the fields. The river water was dirty, and there was little to eat. The villagers worked together, sharing what they had. But Adisa locked her storehouses, keeping her supplies for herself. She watched the villagers struggle from her window, thinking, "They should have prepared like I did." Rumors spread that Adisa had enough food and clean water but refused to share. The village elders came to her. "Adisa," they said, "the people are suffering. Open your heart and your storehouses." "No," Adisa snapped. "I earned this. If they want food, they can pay." The elders left, shaking their heads. One night, Adisa heard a noise. Someone had broken into her storehouses and stolen food. She was furious but could do nothing. The villagers had turned their backs on her. When she walked through the village, people avoided her. No one greeted her or offered her help. That evening, an old woman appeared at Adisa's door. She wore simple clothes and carried a walking stick. Her eyes seemed to shine with wisdom. "Adisa," the old woman said, "what you give, you will receive. What you hoard will turn to dust." Adisa laughed bitterly. "Go away," she said. "I don't believe in such stories." The days passed, and Adisa's food began to spoil. The water she had stored turned foul. She sat alone in her big house, hungry and thirsty. For the first time, she felt the pain of need. Desperate, she went to the villagers. "Please," she said, "I need food and water." But the villagers shook their heads. "Where were you when we needed help?" they asked. Adisa returned home, weak and defeated. One evening, she looked at her reflection in the muddy water outside her house. She barely recognized herself. Her fine clothes were torn, and her face was gaunt. Tears filled her eyes. "What have I done?" she whispered. The next morning, Adisa unlocked her storehouses. She began to give food and water to the villagers. At first, they were hesitant. "Why now?" they asked. Adisa did not have an answer, but her actions spoke for her. As the villagers accepted her offerings, Adisa felt a strange warmth in her heart. But deep down, she wondered, was she truly forgiven? Could she ever repair the damage she had done? As the sun set over the village, Adisa stood at her door, watching the people she had wronged. A single tear rolled down her cheek.